We all good.
I'm comfortable with my height and
You are kind
lack
of extra
thereof.
short today.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
That's fine.
You're comfortable
Sometimes. Do you ever feel short?
Every day of my life.
Oh.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Game Day Extra Podcast. I'm senior Texas A&M sports writer Travis Brown here at KBTX, alongside maybe the busiest man this week. That is meteorologist Max Crawford, chief meteorologist Max Crawford.
Whatever. You call me whatever. Yeah, it's nice to get like a little break from this, though we are going to talk a little bit of weather at the end of this, just how things look.
'Cause that's what's going to be going on around the SEC.
I'm telling you, man, from here to the Carolinas, there's going to be stuff. Even down to Florida, they could get some wintry things. So it's going to be a very busy weekend.
Will Laguna Beach get any wintry weather?
Is that in Cal? Where is that?
That's
Yes,
Anyway,
yes,
over here,
very
sports
good, very
director
good.
Tyler Shaw, and I did give you a title this
Oh,
week.
wow, look at that.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm not as busy as Max this week.
No,
Yeah.
that's why you get a title.
There's you guys have just a little teeny tiny bit of a lull because men's
Barely.
Yeah, exactly. It's teeny tiny because we didn't have a game last night. We don't have one tonight.
Yeah, we
right?
do. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, well,
Tonight.
see,
At
there you
Reed
go.
Arena, Mississippi
That's how
State.
that is how little I've been paying attention. I know we had one on Saturday that I bought tickets for before all of the
They
Saturday
got a two-game
stuff
homestand.
looked.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check on that.
We are
wintry
on
sports
Saturday.
Yeah,
stuff
Saturday might
happening
be
on
interesting.
Sunday.
I have
they're
my-
hosting a track meet too, so like A&M has multiple events going on.
And we were planning on going up to, and I mean, technically still are planning on going
To
up to
Dallas.
the East-West Shrine Bowl for
Yeah.
Dallas, leaving on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Stay tuned for that.
It could happen.
It could happen. It could happen.
Yeah.
Little Angels in the outfield.
Yep.
Well,
great movie. Great show.
Let's
Great
get
bit.
right into the headlines for this week. And that is, like we said, it's a little bit of a slow season right now. So A&M football finishes number 8 in the AP poll, and Indiana wins the Natty. What a great game that was.
Mhm.
And I have to say, and y'all can, tell me I'm wrong here, but if you want to go towards iconic championship plays, the 4th down Mendoza run is right up there with the Vince Young run from 2005.
I would love to unseat it so we never have to talk about that play again.
Max was in the weather. I mean, I was working, that night, and Max was in the weather center, and that play happened, and I threw the door open, and I said, "Max,
Yeah.
you have to come see this touchdown."
Which is
And-
the only time Tyler has ever had to get me to go into the sports center.
Right. Normally, he is just
I'm just
naturally
usually
already
there.
always there, but he wasn't there at that time, and he needed to be. And
Yeah.
then Katie came over, and we were all huddled around like, "Oh, they're going to replay it. You just need watch."
It's like one of those Heisman moments after winning the Heisman.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
It
Chris
was
Fowler even
great.
said it on the call.
Yeah.
That's why he won the Heisman. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
iconic. Yeah, it's a great way of putting it.
I mean, who would have known? Indiana. This is let's beat the horse a little bit more dead, but the historical worst team in college football has won a Natty. It is possible for anyone now, isn't it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I think it is.
Maybe.
They set the precedent.
Anybody with enough money
No
and
one
the
has an
right coach.
excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that nobody has an excuse for sure.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, or on the other side of that headline, was the fact that A&M finishes number 8. Is that about where you thought they would be?
Yeah. I mean, you can't put them ahead of the Final Four because they made the Final Four. They were obviously one of the top 12. They lost their first game, but it was to the national runner-ups. So yeah, I think 8 is kind of right around where naturally, just the way that the postseason played out,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry. Maybe you could edit this very, very long pause out later, Travis.
Okay. I won't.
Great. Wonderful. My brain is activating at like half speed right now. But I think I would have loved to have finished top 5, but just the way the season played out, I was a little worried they were going to bump us out of the top 10. And honestly, I think this is kind of a situation where I love my moral victories, and I think the performance of Miami through this is part of the reason why we're 8 and not like 11 or 12, because it was pretty clear that up until Indiana, we kind of gave Miami the best fight that they got throughout the playoffs. So I think that's a reason for it. Of course, I see the team sitting there at number 7, and I go, I still think we'd beat them at a neutral site, but that's probably just the Aggie in me.
That is Texas Tech.
And
for those listening.
We move on. But yeah, 8 is good. I think all things considered, the way the season played out, you're disappointed with the finish, but very clearly we had better results than we did last year. There were several times, like when Miami was playing Ohio State and they were beating them the way that we did. I think that game specifically, I was like, man, I would have really loved to have seen what A&M could have done against Ohio State, considering how Miami played against Ohio State. But eventually that argument kind of fades, right? Because they get deeper and deeper into the playoffs, and who beat who is who beat who.
Then Texas starts to wonder, what if we made the playoff? Could we?
Sure. And there's always going to be the what ifs to go along with that, but. Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic season. Like you can't take away from it just because we lost the last 2 games in the way that we did. It was still such a great ride, and I think when I look back on it, yeah, there will always maybe still be that little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, mainly with the way that we finished the regular season, but like a little bit about the playoff too. But the bottom line is I think the trajectory of this program is very clearly on the up.
I'm going to do one of those great radio reporting things and say, I don't know the answer to this question, but you look at this, the other thing that really stood out to me about this final AP poll, 6 schools from Texas in the final. And I don't know.
Connor Wigman's U of H.
Right. When maybe the last time that would have been.
I think it's a first. I haven't gone through and verified all that, but for a final poll, I don't think that's happened before.
And then just 2 spots, 3 spots in receiving votes is SMU. That's 7.
Yeah.
And to see that, and the other part of this, number 22, the last, if you want to go with 7, the last 4 is Houston, North Texas, TCU, and SMU.
Yeah, historic football powerhouses,
it is,
right?
It is the shunned of the Southwest Conference.
Yeah,
plus North Texas.
I was going to say maybe in the Southwest Conference days, like the mid to late 80s when Texas, A&M, SMU were all good. But
Baylor and TCU.
Right, but I don't know if you got 6 of them.
Yeah, and there wasn't as many FBS schools then. So, this is
pretty cool.
That has to be pretty close to a first, if not a first. So transfer window closes. Not much to change since we talked about this last week. In fact, really nothing has changed. We can just kind of roll through a few of these commits here. We mentioned Houston Thomas, the local kid. David Olano is the kicker. That was a big key piece there. Keep going. Anto Saka was one of the later guys in that, and CJ Mims, a defensive lineman. They really bolstered the offensive line and the defensive line out of the portal. Anything quickly that kind of percolated in your brain from the last time we talked about this last week with any of these guys that got in here, or kind of where this transfer class sat with the Aggies?
I still think it's a really good balance of like proven talent and some guys who are really, really coveted out of the portal, and some younger dudes who I think would kind of be more depth pieces and just bolster the roster in general. I think we're going to look back on that Ricky Gibson pickup and say that was kind of an underrated pick, because that was kind of still in the Cam Coleman sweepstakes, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we got this guy who was the starter at an SEC school, and I think that he's going to probably be the projected starter at cornerback, opposite of Des Ricks. And I think we're also going to need the Tulsa linebacker Coney.
Yes.
So, I think we're going to need him to step up in a big way. And I don't know that I realized how good / talented Isaiah Horton is. I think I was victim to a little bit of the we didn't get Cam Coleman thing, and not really realizing, at least at first, and when we recorded last week, that he's really, really good.
There's
Number 2 wide receiver.
There's an Alabama fan in this office that's really
She
upset.
was mad. She practically yelled at me the day after he committed and was like, "Listen, we need to talk about y'all taking Isaiah Horton from us."
I think there will be a lot of people next year that have their eyes on how Cam Coleman and Isaiah Horton seasons go.
Yeah,
just because it is Texas
it's
and
a
Texas
natural
A&M.
it's a natural storyline. Not to mention, one of them came from Alabama, the other one came from Auburn, so they were already rivals at 2 different schools. So that's one of the things that kind of makes the portal era fun, I suppose.
Fun?
Yeah, quote unquote fun.
A&M, if you want to look at 247 Sports, number 11 transfer portal class. They're ranked number 11th.
Not to pat On3 on the back, because I don't know. There are some good people that work for that organization. One thing I do like, the way that they rank the transfer portal, is they take into account who went out of the portal and who you brought in, and they kind of rank you that way. And I'm pretty sure we're 1 or 2 with that particular ranking, and that's why I'm giving them a shout out. It's mainly self-serving, but I do kind of like that spin on it of you look
number
at
3.
number
if you
3.
look there,
okay,
yeah.
there you go.
So there is it's an algorithm that takes into account what you lost and what you brought in, not just what you brought in. That would put A&M at number 3. But who does that put at number 1, Max?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to play this game.
I can't read.
that is one Texas Tech.
I can't read, just like the people who are at number 1 on
On the
that list.
national champs.
Whoa.
Unnecessary shots this
Yeah,
week.
and the national champs are number 2 there in those rankings. They took one Josh Hoover from TCU to be their quarterback next year. So,
can we also talk about the mass migration of Denton to Stillwater pipeline?
Oh yeah.
Just like 9 or 10 players, I think, going from UNT to Oklahoma State.
Next thing you know, Oklahoma State's going to have a really good music and journalism schools. So
yeah, potentially. Stillwater could use that, most definitely. Stillwater could use a little bit of Denton added to it.
Hoops, men's and women's hoops split games in Austin. It was euphoric for the men's team, who gets their 3rd win in Austin since 1987 and first since 2002. And it was pretty brutal. It was a 35-point deficit?
45
45-point deficit.
You have to go back a long time since A&M's lost by that much.
Yeah, that was
It's been a while.
not super great. But we were out there for the men's game. Max, Tyler and I got to break it down in our game recap a little bit afterwards. What did you take from that matchup?
To me, it's that they seem to be, especially when you look at those first couple of games, Oklahoma State notwithstanding, but I think it was UCF, I believe, where we were ahead and then we just flip and gave it up. And then I think we did it essentially again against SMU. It seems like we are slowly but surely trying to correct those wrongs, and we're slowly but surely starting to figure out how to close games. It's still nail-biting, which in a rivalry game you would expect it to be. But I was not nearly as stressed about that game in the final minutes as I was about, say, Auburn or Tennessee. I just kind of had a feeling that we were going to close it out. And maybe it's just because I've been growing used to the game getting close towards the end like that. But I think we kept them at arm's length enough to even allow that last minute or so. Can
we take it through and give it up?
Sure.
For those watching here, give a little hand clap for Ruben Dominguez hitting a mid-range jumper in buckyball. When he went up for that, I texted Tyler and was like,
"What's he
is
doing?
he gonna have to run sprints for taking a mid-ranger?"
Well, what about this one?
Yeah,
that Vincent dunk was
Jamie Vincent poster.
awesome. Mm-hmm. That was really, really
that
cool.
was the first one of the 2 he had in the game that we're watching right now.
You know what I also, and then I'll let you guys talk about actual ball knowledge. This brought me back a little bit to the like the mid to late 2000s Texas and A&M hoops rivalry, because to me that was when it was among the best. Like when it was our obviously Billy Gillespie, but even our Turgeon teams. That A&M and Texas game, you were looking forward to that all the time, and it was such a great matchup of grit and even talent. And there was probably more talent on those teams back then than there are right this second. But it did give me a little bit of a taste of what I think this rivalry can become again, and being a very, very fun basketball rivalry.
Yeah, I think it helps you have two fresh faces in there. You have two first-year head coaches, Sean Miller, Bucky McMillan.
Both trying to establish a legacy here.
Bucky's obviously already gotten a lot of momentum. Texas is Texas. I think both teams are kind of in the same boat of could be bubble teams for the tournament. So they still have a lot of season to play for.
I mean, I would argue that Texas might have better wins than A&M does.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, this obviously it's going to depend on how the season plays out. But this game could be consequential when it comes to tournament time. I think we have a game like that with stakes. And the next game could have high stakes, too, when they return to Reed Arena.
Hi, Coach Sark. For those listening,
we're watching.
For
this
those
game
listening on the podcast, Tyler got some great B-roll of Coach Steve Sarkisian. And I'm sure
remind you that Max is the arrhythmia of the pulse of Aggieland here. We are the journalists. Max is the fan.
I'm sorry. I saw the head coach of Texas's football program. Kind of my job.
It makes sense, Tyler. It totally makes sense. I get it. I still don't like it.
I'm just leaving this on here extra long for you.
I will say he stayed the entire game.
Yeah,
which kind of surprised me. He didn't really leave his seat.
Well,
he was there.
The traffic is bad trying to get to the Moody Center. He's probably just trying to avoid that.
That's fair.
But where was I going? I don't remember. Well, I'm sorry.
Let's shift gears real quick to
it was about basketball.
Yeah, well, to the if it comes back to you,
okay,
bring it on.
I'll just shout. I'll just start shouting.
But let's shift gears a little bit. And Tyler, it's a 45-point loss for the women's team. Of course, the Aggie Vic Schaefer is the one responsible for it on the other side. Where does this leave this women's program, and especially head coach Joni Taylor right now at this point in the season?
They need to come up with the answers in quick, because this isn't just a one-off, wow, that was just a really – I mean, it was back-to-back really bad losses. They lost by almost as much to Vanderbilt. And again, as part of the SEC, I mean, they're playing really, really good teams. The problem is it doesn't stop. They have LSU on Thursday night, sixth-ranked LSU, who goes toe-to-toe with Texas, probably about, I
mean, we should be a really, really good team, too, is my argument to that.
That's fair, but they're not.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing. They are not in that conversation. Yeah. They are not at that talent level. And you could make, you could make all the arguments of why it's that way. But the truth of it is they're not. And they're playing these teams that they're going to get blown out. It was the way the Texas game ended reminded me of the Georgia in overtime, where A&M had a big lead, showed that they're capable of playing in games like that, and then just shut down in the second half. And that's what happened to Texas. It was, I think, a 10-point game at halftime. A&M kind of muddied it because that's what A&M does well. They play good defense. And they kind of disrupted Texas's flow in that first half, and it was just kind of ugly basketball, but that played into A&M's favor, and it was a manageable game at halftime. And then you just come out completely flat in the second half, let Texas get running in transition and get in their rhythm, and it just got out of hand.
Maybe Joni needs to take a page from the Buzz Williams book and just make them hang out in the loading dock at halftime.
So I asked her, she said, I wish I knew the answer. Like, maybe we don't go to the locker room at halftime. Maybe we come out sooner. Maybe they need to do something to shake it up. I don't know.
There was one of those games in the Buzz era where they just stayed on the court.
Stayed on the court.
Yeah. And maybe that's what Joni's squad needs to do. I don't know. I mean, when it comes down to it, they do not have the talent on this team to compete with those upper echelon teams. But that's not to say you should lose by 45 points.
Sure, and you got to get your wins elsewhere too, right?
And they're not getting those wins elsewhere right now. They've gotten a few that they wouldn't have last year. So I've seen improvement from last year's team. But man, there's a tough road ahead. I mean, they've got LSU, they've got South Carolina coming. It's not going to be easy.
It makes March not quite as fun because, like, for a little while, you would trust a Gary Blair coach team to get in the tournament. And, a Turgeon or Kennedy team, you would expect the same. And so you could fill out two brackets and put A&M at the Natty for both of them and stuff like that.
More times than not, we're hosting one of those first two-round games.
It's sad, and you will never, ever, ever hear me on here talk about somebody needs to lose their job for this or that, the other, unless it's for something absolutely egregious and not related to the results on the court or field. But some sort of change probably is inevitable at this point.
I believe her contract runs through next year. And that's going to be a decision that the athletic department's going to have to make at the end of the season. Do you part ways a year early?
Yeah,
or
I don't know.
Do you let it ride out and see if the ship can get right?
I don't know.
The problem is, like Max, you said you want them to be one of those top teams. That's not going to happen unless they invest.
Right. And do you? I mean, not to keep like tooting this horn, but do you have a baseball hire to make at the end of this spring as well?
And that might go into it as well.
I think it probably will, depending on how some other things shake out.
Right. Well, let's move on to another one of the women's sports, the diamond sport. Softball comes in at preseason number 11. We actually got to talk to head coach Trisha Ford here a little bit. Was it yesterday? Kind of previewing the season. Asked her a little bit about probably the biggest question of the season is how do you replace Emily Kennedy, and there's one particular player there. They have a pretty good depth at pitching, but there's one particular pitcher that is going to probably step up and take over a lot of that responsibility. So here is head coach Trisha Ford talking yesterday about what's going on in the circle.
Emily back? No, okay. It was exciting, to be honest with you. I mean, Sydney Lessentine last year, I put her in some tough spots, especially at the end of the year. And I've been challenging her, and I've been having some fun talks. I'm sure you guys will ask her about it when we start here pretty soon. But she's really just stepped up, and somebody that we're looking heavily into. She's got dynamic stuff. She has the ability to go up. She has the ability to go down, change speeds. So we're excited. We're excited about her taking that next step in her sophomore year, leading this program.
So Lessentine is going to be kind of the one to carry a lot of that weight, and she's still a young pitcher, but Trisha Ford, as she mentioned, got her in some of those key positions, some high-pressure positions last year to kind of get her ready for this.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the key to this team is she ready for this? From a lot of their pitching staff, you've seen glimpses. The biggest thing is just there hasn't been the consistency before then, because Emily Kennedy is really just taken on the bulk of the load when it comes to pitching the past few years. Last year was a little bit where you started to see more of a complete, bullpen, if you would, out of that pitching staff. And that's why they rose to number one by the end of the year, because they had some more support. So will they have kind of that All-American like Emily Kennedy? I probably not. But if Lessentine is kind of ready to take on that role of being the go-to person, this could be a dangerous team.
You're right. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily a squad that has the superstar. The high end might not be as high, but I think the depth is greater. There's more arms that have more experience. They can go 6, even 7 deep, whereas especially towards the end of the year last year, they were rolling with maybe 3. Outside
and that
of
was
Emily.
More depth than they've had in previous years before that.
Right. And so I think that'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them in the ability to maybe be a little bit more versatile in the circle instead of just having one power arm going into it.
My biggest thing, I'll be interested with softball, and Max, you're going to love who comes to Davis Diamond opening weekend, is Texas Tech.
Yeah,
and Texas A&M.
That'll be
first,
tough, man.
First Saturday of the season. That's the thing is, they're number 11 preseason. They lost a lot from last year's squad, but they still have a lot of talent. I think they could be, in contention again. But then you look at the teams like Texas Tech and Texas and what they've done with their softball programs. It'll be interesting to kind of compare that in state, how they stack up against those kind of teams with the talent that they have.
Yeah, the schedule. I mean, it's always like this in the SEC, and we talk about, SEC football, and then we talk about SEC baseball, but, I mean, really, where things are the craziest to me year in and year out, especially with OU and Texas now, the softball in the SEC is insane. So they're going to be battle-tested by the end of the season, and that's why I think, there will be some series that will be very, very crucial for seeding and stuff like that, but I still have faith that this squad will be battle tested enough to whether we're hosting a regional or super regional or not. I think that we will have every opportunity to get out of a regional and then duke it out with probably another SEC team in a super to try to get to Oklahoma City. And so I think that that's the expectation that I have with the Tricia Ford coach team is, last season notwithstanding, I think you assume that you at least get to a super every single year.
12 of the top 25 teams are in the SEC. There's only 16 SEC teams. 2 others are receiving votes. So you have 14 of the 16 teams in your league.
It's crazy.
That are ranked or right on the cusp.
Well, and we're just, 2 or 3 seasons? It was before OU and Texas were in the league, but 2 or 3 seasons removed from when every team made the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was wild.
It is the gauntlet that people like to think that football or baseball is. It's insane. And like the job that she did last year with that, it was nothing short of incredible. Obviously the postseason was what it was, but 2024/2025 in general was just a really odd year for sports for the Aggies. So I'm just going to chalk it up to that. I have faith that Trish is going to get it done.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William John Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the conversation here for this week, and it's one that we're bringing back from last year. The way too early SEC rankings. That is we right as soon, literally minutes after the confetti falls in the national championship game. Organizations start putting out their way too early rankings of where things should be at the start of the season in 2026. Most of those are a top 25. Last year we looked at the SEC, but we'll first take a look here at where A&M landed in some of these way too early rankings. The lowest, there was other ones that I didn't put on this graphic. The lowest I saw A&M was number 12, and I believe that was Sporting News, ranked number 12. The highest, as we have right here, is CBS Sports at number 6, and then everything is kind of in between there. Yahoo Sports have them at number 8, ESPN number 10, Sports Illustrated number 8, The Athletic is number 11. What do you think? Way too early where A&M fits into the national top 25 position.
This is the national ranking, not the SEC
Correct.
ranking.
This is national.
Yeah, that makes a
Got
little
it.
more sense.
I was going to say, man.
Yeah. This is national top 25.
Got it. That's not where my head was at. I was like, golly, man.
Anywhere around 10.
I think this is
top 10. Yeah,
I have a hot take. I think this is perennially what we should expect, unless we had like an Indiana run where everybody's a senior or graduate senior type of deal. I think this is about what things should look like with an Elko programmed team. I think as we look at way too early and then we get to like preseason in August and stuff like that, I think we should be around 5 to 15 every year.
Yeah, I would say probably in the 10 to 11 range. And we'll get into some of reasoning why for that. Tyler, I mean, is this about where you would expect to put him?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's one of those things that, it's way too early, so I don't think there's anything that you need to knock them lower for than around that.
I think you look at the way that Miami powered through so much of the playoffs. I think the reason why we're looking at around 8 to 11 instead of like 4 to 6 is because of the attrition in the trenches. I think if our offensive line, defensive line situation was a little better, like if we'd have gotten Besantis to stay and maybe got like one different marquee pickup in the portal at O-line, I think it would look a little bit different. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Biggest question
Max,
that people who actually know ball have. No.
You want to go first?
No, I sure don't.
I think you should go first since you were leading us right in here. Max, what is your way too early SEC rankings.
Maybe we call this a power rankings or what?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, so if you don't have the video up, which most of y'all don't, I refuse. I flat out refuse, and this is all biased, to put that one team up at number one, and I think for good reason. I've got Georgia at number one. They've got plenty coming back. They showed that the number two team that I have is still not quite to that level of, we can go to Athens and beat you. I was a little bit surprised, Texas at number two. I was a little bit surprised when I kind of started everything else, because to me it was pretty clear cut. Like, okay, Georgia and Texas are 1 and 2 in some order. And then after that, it got kind of confusing pretty quickly. And so once I started to actually kind of think about things, I thought, well, Oklahoma's probably got to be up there. And if you don't have Oklahoma in the top 5, I think it's kind of silly, just based on the performance that they did last year with not great quarterback play, with really not great offensive play in general.
They still made the playoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They still made the playoff, and
a lot of the quarterback play was because the quarterback was hurt
Sure.
and coming back, and
Right.
that quarterback comes back this year.
And then at one point I had Ole Miss up there, but I was actually surprised at how much I was rooting for Ole Miss in the playoffs. I don't think that luster is going to stay. I think that they are going to come back down to earth, but I do think that they still have a lot of talent. I mean, they've got Chambliss coming back, and they have plenty. Lacey, I believe, is also coming back. Like, so they're going to have a ton of talent. I think it remains to be seen if Golding can maintain that level of success and want to, and just performance from a team over the course of a season. And so that's why I ultimately switched them with LSU, that I have at number 4. Then I've got the Ags at number 5, because I think we have a lot of key pieces returning, especially with experienced quarterback play. And maybe that's a hot take in this day and age, because some people all of a sudden think Marcel is the least clutch person ever, which
That's like
I
the
do
one
not
quality
think.
he for sure does have.
Exactly. And I'll talk about that till I'm blue in the gills. But and then, like, kind of surprising, I've got Alabama at number 7, because I don't think that they're better than anybody above them. And they lost a lot of players, but the only reason I don't have them at like number 10, maybe there's a little bit of the logo effect there, but I also think that DeBoer is a really good game time coach, and so I think that he could still out scheme a lot of these other teams that might actually have more talent than mighty Alabama. And then it's kind of a hodgepodge after that until you once again get to the Kentucky, Mississippi States, and Arkansas of the world. I do think that Kentucky made a really interesting hire. They picked up some good portal pieces, and so I think they're going to surprise a couple people next season, but I don't see them getting up above where I have them right now. So the rest of it is kind of like we were looking at it last year and saying, take your pick between like 4 and 14 almost.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess we all kind of have the same top and very bottom of these.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go next, because and for me, there was like, it's kind of what you were saying. There's 3 definitive tiers. I feel like there is kind of the top 2, because we both had Georgia, Texas, and in fact, I think we both had, all 3 had Georgia, Texas, LSU, if I'm not mistaken. In our top ones, you had Oklahoma and then LSU. So there's Georgia, Texas. We kind of all agree that that's the upper echelon heading in. Then there's this kind of middle, jumble. And then pretty much once you get to like 8, everyone below 8, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, that's really where you throw a dart, because a lot of those teams are bringing in new head coaches, and lost a lot and are bringing in a lot. And so it's really hard to see. I have LSU at number 3. I think that they, of course, Lane Kiffin is got that moniker, the Portal King, for a reason. They've had a pretty solid portal class. They're bringing in a pretty experienced, good quarterback. I think you talking about that glimmer that Ole Miss had last season. I mean, most of that is because of it's the way that Lane Kiffin built that team, even if he wasn't still around. And some of that I probably will be pretty immediate at LSU. Chambliss is a great quarterback, and if they, I believe there's still some issue with.
Yeah, it's not official. He's coming back,
right? He needs to get a waiver.
Well, and even if he doesn't, Simmons is great too.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Ole Miss has some momentum. I agree with you in the fact that probably after this year, it might start going a little down before it comes back up. Just
Yeah.
as
That's a good point. Like, this season is not necessarily a mulligan by any stretch, but like you feel like this season you almost expect more success than a season or two after.
Correct.
So that's when you really discover like how good is Golding at building a program.
I liked John Mateer early in the season. I thought was behind him as an early Heisman candidate for what he was able to do before he got hurt. I think pretty much everything after that was because he got hurt and can't try to come back way too early. And so a healthy John Mateer for a whole season is going to be really interesting. I think you put Oklahoma up there. I have Texas A&M at number 6, and it's the lowest of the three of us because there's just so many question marks in the trenches. And if Miami said anything about anything this year, that is really good offensive defensive line play can get you to a national championship. And I think that's what was one of the strengths of A&M last year's season was offensive and defensive line play. So until I get a better indication about how good some of the pieces that they brought in are and mesh together into the system, have them at number 6. Tennessee, this is where things start getting a little murky. Tennessee, I like Josh Heupel. I like what they're building there. I think Alabama is going to kind of what we were talking about with Ole Miss. I think that they're starting to face the reality that just the name and the logo alone isn't going to necessarily recruit. They're going to have to win. They're going to have to raise the NIL money, which a lot of people have said Alabama isn't actually as well off as some of the teams above them in that category. And so it's going to be an interesting few years, I think, for Alabama.
I think the way you're sitting with Alabama at 8, I think you could say every single team above them has more NIL dollars committed to football than them.
Yeah.
And I think even a couple of teams below them probably do at this point too.
Yeah. Number 9, I'm going to South Carolina. I last year was weird. I still feel like Lenore Sellers is a really good quarterback. And so he is coming back. And so I think that I still want to see what they have. And then everything after this is just kind of, who knows? You got Florida. Vanderbilt's going to take a step back, but I still do like Clark Lee. Missouri has a really tough schedule this year. And so they might actually have some better talent than some of these teams ahead of them, but it's a little bit of it is a difficult schedule. And then Auburn, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, those could pretty much be in any order there at this point. So
I see, and this is how it's just going to be so interesting to see with especially the new hires, like early returns on Golish are not great. Early returns on Summerall are really, really good. Early returns on Silverfield are kind of not even really somewhere in between. They're kind of just like, I don't know. And then like Lebby, man, he was close so many different games last year. And so Mississippi State could jump out of nowhere. They were able to retain some pretty good talent, pick up a couple good pieces as well. So Mississippi State could surprise some people.
Well, we kind of agree on like who the bottom teams are. I think in reality, there's no way to predict this, but I think in reality, one of these teams is going to emerge and not be one of the just because there are so many unknowns with the new head coach. Not saying there's going to be a Kurt Signetti out there, but one of these teams is going to kind of surprise people and finish better than that.
I think it very well could be Mississippi State.
Maybe it could.
What is it going to be? Lebby's third year?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, 5-8's not a good record in your second season, but like I said, they were so close with so many games. And so it remains to be seen if they can figure it out. But I'm glad we're not going to Starkville once again because I don't like playing there.
Yeah,
and I think that Lebby will get a couple wins there.
To me, the team with the biggest variability is Missouri. Because I think they bring back a decent amount of talent, but like their schedule is Florida A&M, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas, Georgia, Kentucky, Oklahoma. That is a rough go through the SEC.
That's about as hard as you could ask.
And I think there's plenty of games in there. I mean, just the stretch of Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas, Georgia. Arkansas probably isn't going to be one of the better teams, but it's usually a pretty physical game.
Is that 4 away games in a row? It is 4 away games in a row with the bye week in between.
That stretch is 4 in a row with a bye week. So
yikes!
Yeah,
but they host Texas, right?
Is that what it
Oh, you're
says?
right. Yeah, they do.
Oh,
host
okay.
Texas.
Sorry, I saw Memorial and just thought that was
Yeah.
DKR.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Never
but still not
Not
easy,
great. Yeah.
not great. So that's what I have. Tyler, let's look over here at your setup.
Yeah. So mine is a little different. I think any of the top 7 are contenders. I probably, it's one of those that, we do agree that Georgia, Texas are kind of 1-2. I think they kind of separated themselves, but I think it's one of those things that the SEC is wide open, just like it's been the past couple of years. I will say, looking at this now, I probably put Ole Miss too low, because I do think there's going to be a step back. And I guess I was kind of going on the assumption that with Trinidad Chambliss. Now it sounds like he will probably get that waiver.
You have Ole Miss at number 7.
I do have Ole Miss at number 7. So I've got Georgia, Texas, LSU, and again that's just going off of Lane Kiffin and what he's already done in the portal. They have their quarterback. That's the biggest thing, Sam Leavitt. I have Texas A&M the highest. I didn't really know what to do with them. Between them, Oklahoma, that kind of Ole Miss, Alabama. So I've got Texas A&M at 4, then Oklahoma, then Alabama, then Ole Miss. I get what Travis, what you're saying about the trenches, but they have one of the most experienced quarterbacks coming back in the SEC.
True.
I think that helps. He's got great weapons around him. This is year 3, Mike Elko. They've taken serious strides from year 1 to year 2. I think he's built the culture to compete up there. Again, they could finish top 3 in the SEC. They could slide down to 7. Like I said, these top 7, I think, you could switch out.
We all do agree that A&M is definitely in one of those in contention. It's a good way to put it.
Yes.
1 through 6 is 1 through 7 really is an in contention team.
I have them ahead of Oklahoma, even though we talked about how strong they are and we're a playoff team. I'm not as high on John Mateer. And that's kind of why I have them a little lower at 5. I do have Alabama at 6. I would probably flip-flop Alabama, Ole Miss. But while they've fallen off, they still are Alabama until I see a major slide where they're not making the playoff and they're picking up 4 regular season losses. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Again, we kind of had Tennessee in that same spot at 8. I put Missouri up a little higher. I guess I wasn't. I'm looking at these as rankings and not necessarily final standings because, with that schedule, they're probably going to finish lower than that. I still like Clark Lee. I've got Vanderbilt as a top 10 team, even though they are going to take a step back. You can't lose Diego Pavia and still feel
and
good
Eli Stowers
about where you are exactly. Auburn 11, South Carolina, Florida 13. And this is where this is kind of a crapshoot. I mean, Florida. I've got Kentucky 14, then Mississippi State, Arkansas last. I just don't know about Silverfield.
People have there's been a very, very reasonable debate about whether the Big Ten or the SEC, et cetera, are the marquee conferences in the U.S. And maybe it's just because we report on the SEC all the time, but it does say a lot that we're arguing about the bottom feeders. I mean they've all got talent and they all have very capable coaches and stuff too. So I'm not going to sit here and say
irrelevant.
Right, exactly.
I think that's the difference. Is other conferences you have the teams they're just perennially bad and
there's a better chance that one of those teams is going to steal a win probably than the lower half of the Big Ten.
Like you said, Missouri was your most kind of volatile. Could go either. Mine's Kentucky. I'm at 14. I really like Will Stein.
Yeah,
I think he's too. I think he's going to build something. Now, maybe it's not this year. Maybe it takes a couple of years. But maybe it's a little early. Maybe next year is a big breakout year, and maybe they finish top 10 in the SEC.
There's a quarterback that they picked up that I can't think of, but I remember seeing that and going, oh, okay, well, maybe they will make a little bit of noise.
Kentucky's done some good things through the transfer portal.
That's another situation where I'm like, or maybe it was Nick Anderson that they picked up. I don't know. I know they got a couple of decent pickups that I was like, oh, okay. But that's kind of one of those games that I'm like, you know what? I'm just glad that we have them early in the season.
They got the 4-star from Notre Dame, Kenny Minchie.
Okay, well there you go. But yeah, I'm
CJ Baxter from Texas.
That's who it was that I was thinking of. Yeah, exactly.
That's a big name.
So I'm glad that we get to play them in September or whatever it is because I don't want to mess with them a little bit later on in the season. I used to always say that about Auburn, that I would always want an Auburn matchup early in the season. because of either freeze and then before that because of the Gus bus. But Kentucky's kind of my team like that this year.
Yeah. Well, so closing thoughts. You raised a good point. I think the biggest argument right now coming out of the bowl season, the playoff season, is where the Big Ten and the SEC lie. This is the third straight Big Ten national champion. If you want to look at the top end of things,
different champion too.
A different champion, yeah. I think for me, through the 2010s and early 2020s, yeah, the SEC was the strongest football league, and it was there wasn't much of an argument now. I don't want to say that just because the Big Ten won 3 national championships, that their whole football conference as a conference is better than the SEC, but I do think that it's moved back into the middle. I think they're both pretty comparable. I think that, yeah, probably there's some teams at the bottom half of the SEC that could still steal a win a little bit better than the bottom of the Big Ten, but they're pretty much mirror images of each other right now.
Well, and there are people that would probably like to have a playoff where it's just the SEC and the Big Ten because they think those are the
don't put that. Don't speak that evil.
Is disgusting.
But yes, I think they are comparable, and it's funny. 3 national champions from the Big Ten. There could be what if Oregon won next year? Then you'd be 4 for 4 and all different, which is possible.
That's why the Big Ten is stupid.
Yeah.
You want to elaborate on that?
No,
I
I don't like either of them.
I can't wait to hear Greg Sankey's spin on why he still thinks that they are the Premier League.
Well, bookmark this now because I hate the SEC. I hate the Big Ten even more. But who's going to be the biggest SEC homer at the end of the season if A&M has 2 or 3 losses? It's going to be this guy. I hope y'all are ready for that conversation because there will be plenty of 9-3 teams in the SEC that will probably get in the playoffs over an 11-1 Big 12 team, or at least like a 10-2 Big 12 team. I think we need to get ready for that reality. That if an Arizona State or a Utah is in what BYU's situation was last year, maybe BYU's there again, I think we need to prepare for a 9-3 A&M or a 9-3 LSU getting in the playoff over a 1-2 loss in conference Big 12 team.
I think we just 9-3 Alabama was a great.
Well, I just with the way we're switching to 9 conference games, I just think that is what is going to happen, or all heck is going to break loose because the SEC folks would tell you they moved to that 9-game conference slate in good faith that they would not be punished if we got to the end of the season and there was a team with a really good non-conference record but lost a couple in conference. I think where 10-2 was the magic number for playoff contention this past year, I think it's going to be 9-3 next year. That's just what I think.
9-3 with like a good non-conference.
Yes, exactly. So it's not an automatic you're in, but it's a oh no, we're going to have a problem with this.
More SEC teams that make the playoff next
year. See, I don't even know if I'm ready to say that yet. I think it just kind of depends on how it shakes out. If it shakes out like it did in 2024, then yes.
You're looking at the tiebreaker scenario, not necessarily
kind of. Yeah. Because 2024, it was kind of anybody's race towards the end of the season. In 25, it was pretty clear it was going to be Georgia and either Alabama and A&M. You know what I mean? Yeah. The other thing that I will say, I am putting a lot of faith in, and I've said this before. This is the development year. This is where we find out is Elko's recruiting and portal strategy, is that going to work out in the long run? He's playing with pretty much his own pieces at this point. I guess Marcel was a holdover, so that's pretty huge. But I think this is where we find out, are we going to have to do some rebuilding every year or two, or are we going to actually be a reloading program? And I think if you have faith in the development capabilities of guys like Cushing, Moffitt method obviously thrown in there too, and just Elko and his ability to identify those G5 and lower P4 talent on the defense. If you assume all that continues to go very, very well with the pieces we already had in place, then I think you assume that we don't see a huge drop off from last season. And I don't think that's a crazy assumption. I know that's a homer take, but I don't think that's absolutely nuts to say.
I think so too. We aren't going to have a lot of time to break that down unless Tyler has any closing thoughts on the SEC. Well, let's go into what's going to be the biggest news of this weekend, and it's great that we have a chief meteorologist with us because around the SEC it's going to be cold. And it might be a little bit snowy, and it might be a little bit icy. Yeah. We're just going to go ahead and take a few minutes here at the end of the sports podcast to let Max do his thing here and let us know what we need to be doing.
And it was nice to get a break from just that because I've been all weather all the time, and we could do an entire pod on just this. But it is pretty crazy how advanced model data is to this point where we've been able to talk about this winter storm, this cold spell, at least in some form or fashion for almost a week now. You know, we were talking about this even a couple weeks ago, like, hey, towards the end of the month, probably some big cold, but you know, like Saturday and Sunday, we were talking about this for an event that is Saturday and Sunday. And that speaks to the ability of forecasters around the country. And that being said, there's still lots of specifics to be ironed out, but we have all this time to prepare. It's 70 degrees outside right now. It will be again on Thursday and Friday, but there's a lot of stuff that is coming from really the state of Texas all the way to the Carolinas. And I have a couple graphics if you want to punch them up.
Do we need to pull this up here?
Well, Travis, you had it up and then it disappeared. So that I do not know. I can talk over the graphics if you just
keep
want
talking, and I'll figure it out.
Well, yeah. I mean, so not only is this like a snow event, this is a cold event. This is a very potential big ice storm event. And, you know, Travis has got the graphics punched up now, and what I've got here is just the snow potential, and you can kind of see that over Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, maybe even into parts of Texas with some pretty bonkers numbers there. But then if we were to just talk ice and sleet and even just cold rain followed by big time freeze, like it's going to be a big system that rolls through. And right now I think BCS, the Brazos Valley, is kind of right on the brink of, are we going to see mostly cold rain or are we going to see mostly freezing rain and sleet? And as of the recording of this podcast, that is still anybody's guess because it really just depends on how quickly we get down to freezing here at the surface. Winter storm watches, which will very likely be upgraded to winter storm warnings all across Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, and then even back into the Carolinas. And then the next biggest thing, if you're listening to this and you're a local, it is going to get really, really cold. That much we are certain of. Saturday night into Sunday morning, we're down into the low 20s, upper teens, and then we're probably going to get down into the teens one or even two nights, Sunday night, and then again on Monday night. So there's much discourse about this. There's, you know, obviously, if you want to trust your local guy, we've got everything you need to know on the .com and stuff like that. But somewhere there is going to be some pretty crazy ice accumulation. Hopefully it's not here. Right now I don't think it's going to be, but that power outage potential is very real from here all the way to the Carolinas. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cold, and I'm very curious to see how that affects a lot of the slate for both men's and women's basketball from Friday to Monday.
You know what this means? That baseball season.
Right? Yes, that's exactly right. It means baseball season is approaching. So
maybe we can knock this out now and not for opening weekend.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Hopefully we're getting our winter storm out of the way and we don't have to worry about that come baseball and softball seasons.
Do you, as meteorologist,
no.
do you not enjoy winter weather coverage?
No. No. The answer is no. It's not, especially so. Like one of the things that's really nice about the advance notice and stuff like that is that gives folks time to prepare and time to watch and time to fine tune things. But that also means that you are on for that much longer, and so you're just consuming weather information nonstop. And by the time you actually get to the event, you're kind of exhausted, and that can happen with severe weather and tropical weather too. But winter weather, it's harder to forecast to me than tropical and severe weather. Maybe it's because I only really have to do it once or twice every couple years, but folks don't like cold here, and I completely understand that. And there's a lot of folks who are worried about the grid, and I completely understand that. And so yeah, winter's not my favorite. I do not like it.
It's the meteorologist version of coaching search. That's what it sounds like to me.
True.
Yeah. Well,
that or spring football.
Thank you, Max, for filling us in there. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week, as long as we're not frozen blocks of ice. And we'll give you lots of information, maybe from the East-West Shrine Bowl. We'll see, depending on the weather. But we'll also have lots of men's basketball updates and all the above. So thanks so much for listening. For Max Crawford and Tyler Shaw, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra Podcast. We'll see you next week.